if you have not yet rated any of the speakers from the previous sessions, you are still able to do so via the ISWC event app. So please, we kindly ask you to do rate all the sessions that you've attended thus far. Your feedback is very valuable to us. As we draw to a close on day one of ISWC 2025, our final session for today will take a slight detour from the central theme of aging and longevity to spotlight a topic of equal importance: sustainability. In conjunction with the official launch of the EPF sustainability commitments taking place tomorrow, we are pleased to present a fireside chat featuring Ms. Regina Rahim, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Wahini Capital. This session is titled, Does Net Zero Intersect with Living Wage? This timely discussion seeks to broaden the sustainability discourse beyond carbon reduction by addressing the social dimension, in particular, equity and resilience. By exploring the interplay between climate ambition and income security, this session will make the case that net zero strategies and social equity must be pursued in tandem as essential pillars of a more inclusive and sustainable future. To moderate the session, we have invited Mr. Lim Zi Seong, the Deputy Chief Investment Officer of the EPF. He has over 3 decades of experience serving in various investment roles at some of Malaysia's leading fund management companies. Prior to his current position, Mr. Lim served as head of the equity department, overseeing both global and domestic equity portfolios. Please welcome Mr. Lim Zi Seong and Ms. Regina Rahim.
Good evening, everyone. Salam Sejahtera. Thank you for staying the last session. We hope to make it a little bit more interesting. Perhaps I just give a bit of preamble and then we can take it from there. So in recent years, we have seen an increase in frequency and intensity of various climate change events, such as floods, wildfires, and extreme heat across the globe. It has been scientifically proven that climate change is primarily driven by human activities that releases greenhouse gas, like carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere and causes global warming. We have now arrived at a critical juncture where we are facing an existential crisis. If we continue to operate in the same manner, we are heading towards 6 extinction level events. As climate action intensifies and net zero targets are more widely adopted, we see the conversation expanding into how sustainable business practices will need to include social equity and economic resilience at national, sectoral, and individual levels. We at EPF believe in a just transition approach where environmental resilience should be balanced with economic resilience and social equity. So that's the context of this fireside chat. And let me just introduce to you our esteemed speaker. Ms. Regina Rahim has over 25 years in experience in the Malaysian capital markets. Spent mostly in the investment management industry. Up till 2021, Regina was the founding MD for Nomura Asset Management, which she grew from scratch to an award-winning firm with ringgit 30 billion in assets under management. So it's fairly big asset management company. She remains actively involved with the industry through her role as the advisor in the Institutional Investor Council Malaysia, or known as IIC, as well as her involvement in various industry committees including climate change, taxonomy, Islamic finance, and more importantly, women leadership. Regina was one of the inaugural 2021 listee of the Kindness and Leadership 50 Leading Lights Asia Pacific, and was also named by Asia Asset Management Magazine as 25 industry leaders of the Asian asset management industry in 2021. She started Wahine Capital as a means of securing the financial future of women, and they released their first product, W Vault, on 28 May 2023, which is actually quite recent. So to just starting off, so Regina, you have shifted gears from being in the asset management space for nearly 3 decades to founding Wahine Capital. As a driving force for one social agenda, that means to revolutionize women's role in the economy, what are your thoughts on living wage and the need for countries to factor that into achieving net zero?
Thanks, Swee Siong, and just a bit of a background. I'm just very happy to be sitting here with Swee Siong, because Swee Siong used to be a colleague in CIMB many, many years ago. So in terms of my personal thoughts of living wage and the intersection to net zero, I think it's actually very crucial for us to start off with the fact that, is a company really sustainable if the employees that it has can't actually afford to live? And I think that's really crucial to answering this question. And I don't think many people actually grasp the fact that there is a difference between living wage as well as minimum wage. Because many of us in Malaysia, when we talk about wages, it's always minimum wage, which is basically 1,700, as opposed to living wage, which is basically 3,100. So what exactly is living wage? And so to me, it's basically ensuring that you've got a decent standard of living, that you actually have access to all your essential needs, as well as the ability to actually have some purchasing power, right? So there are many methodologies when it comes to figuring out what the living wage is, and I applaud the government, the Malaysian government, for actually trying to improve the quality of life of most Malaysians, in the fact that now GLICs actually have to implement the benchmark of at least 3,100 per month. So this hopefully will kickstart the other investees companies, and then move on to the others, right? So I think that's very, very crucial for us in Malaysia. If we start looking into the other various countries, so what we are seeing in Europe, what we're seeing in Scotland, there is a good connection between their net zero targets as well as partnering that with fair wages. So Scotland, for instance, as part of their trying to achieve their net zero by 2045, the Scottish government actually requires green energy projects that's actually receiving any form of subsidies to actually pay the real living wage and hire locally. So, and that's the same thing in the EU as well, where the Green Deal actually involves the climate neutral by 2050 target, and then there's a social climate fund that actually helps low-income households afford energy transitions while ensuring the green jobs actually pay fair wages. The key thought for me when it comes to living wage and net zero is that we cannot decarbonize the planet while underpaying the people who actually make this happen, right? So I think some of the detractors might actually say that the rise of technology, the rise of AI and all that we don't actually need to consider living wages. But if you start looking at this whole question, you realize that technology is also built by humans, and all that content that you're reading and you're consuming is actually done by humans first. So it is actually crucial for us to address the fact that living wages and climate goals are not separate. They shouldn't be competing, and that basically they're complementary, right? So I'd like to share with you some stats from the ILO there's about 740 million workers globally that's actually earning less than the living wage, right? So I'm a startup founder, and I'm very cognizant of costs, obviously. But in order for me to grow the business, and what makes a business tick is my people. So even though I have a small team, I also have to ensure that I'm not just paying the minimum wage, because otherwise I'm just contributing to the whole problem. So I think that's one of the ways that I'm contributing to this. So I think companies and both governments as well must actually embrace the fact that sustainability is an integrated effort. And we cannot be ignoring the people, because at the end of the day, climate transition should not deepen inequality. So otherwise, you're going to be losing the support as well as the legitimacy of the whole movement, right? So I think that's very, very crucial. Yeah.
So as we were talking about it, I think one of the critical factors is that currently living wages appears to be done by the developed markets, right? And we were saying that are there any statistics that shows that even emerging markets are into this? But I think it's agreeable that living wage is something very new. So perhaps in the later years, probably as more awareness grows and people know how to differentiate between what is living wage and what is minimum wage, then probably we will see a lot more traction on this front.
Yeah, I think one of the key issues here is that why it's such a new thing is also the fact that the recognition of humanity as such is also quite new, in the sense that most people, when we have businesses and all that, it's always been, capitalism has always been the favored choice, right? So the fact that you are now looking at climate change, the fact that you also have wages coming into it because of the fact that you now have social audits, you've got sustainability audits, so there is a convergence in terms of the timeline, right? So this is precisely why it's new. There's lots of work to be done, and it's also very dependent on which countries that you're living in, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think those who are involved in the capitalist market always know that capitalism or capitalist doesn't have a heart, but now I think we need to have a heart when we comes to that part of the stand. Maybe just to give you another, maybe just to get your views on this, Regina. More and more now we hear the term just transition being thrown about. And as a capital markets player, how do you view this in practical terms for the workers today? Is there a risk that the push for net zero could unintentionally widen inequality, especially in low-wage sectors? I think you touched a bit on